There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned in to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me at the Supernatural News Desk, Mr. Tim Dennis. Tim, I want to start off the show with a big thank you to a couple of listeners.
Sure.
Ian and his daughter, Neve. They sent me the coins from England with the Stonehenge and Loch Ness, and then they sent me some cool Peter Rabbit coins and everything. So that was very nice, and Ian said that Neve is a big fan of our show. So, Neve, thank you for listening with your dad. We appreciate you doing that, and I hope that you enjoy the shows and learn a little something from it. Tim, say hi to Neve for us.
Hi, Neve.
There you go, Neve. You've been recognized, girl. Thank you very much for sending me the coins. That was really sweet. We appreciate the gift. All right, Tim.
Yes.
It has not been a real busy week in the world of supernatural news. There's a lot of cuckoo stories out there, and I do want to address this because I'll get people that send me the stories, and there are some that are even too loony for me to share on the show.
Yes.
Because they just, first of all, the source isn't even like, I'm already, like when it's the Daily Mirror, I'm already on the fence post about doing stories like those.
Yeah.
But, enough people read it and it's interesting. But like when you're sending it to me and it's from tomatoblackeneddart.com, doesn't sound like a news source, doesn't sound like a news feed.
No.
And I look at it and I can't find where its origination from. Most of those are fake stories.
Yeah.
So I just avoid those spoof stories. We do know that there are times you guys send us a lot of stories that you don't hear us talk about. It's usually because, A, we were well aware of the story already, and by the time we go to air this show, a follow-up of the story has already come out and debunked everything, so we ignore that. And then in some cases, we just do a little bit of due diligence and realize that the story is not coming from any kind of news source at all. It's just being reported on some, mygrandmaknits.com, and that's just not enough for us.
Dave, mygrandmaknits.com is a very reputable news source. I don't know if you know that or not. But
I didn't. No, yeah. I guess I'll have to reassess where I accept my news from. But we've got supernatural news. We dug deep. We found some stories. And remember, you can always send me links. Dave@darknessradio.com. Maybe we'll use them. Maybe we won't. If we use them, we will give you the huge award of an air high five. How about that, Tim?
That's pretty huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an air high five for just thinking about doing it, folks. There you go. All right. And plus, we have some Parashare coming up in a bit. But let's get started, Mr. Dennis. Where shall we begin this evening in the world of supernatural news? Brought to you by Zyppah.com. That's ZYPPAH.com. And make sure to use darkness at checkout to save and get free shipping. What's our first story for the week?
Well, Dave, you had mentioned the Loch Ness. It's a fisherman finding something a meter long, calling it alien-like, and a baby Loch Ness monster swimming over his foot. He's likening it to a baby Loch Ness monster, which is the cutest little thing ever if you think about it.
Maybe.
And this article is asking, do you know what it is? It's in South Australia, and it's a strange-looking sea creature which left beachgoers puzzled. A strange-looking sea creature has left those beachgoers puzzled after it swam around their feet in an inquisitive fashion before darting back out into the sea, another place where Dave won't be going swimming.
Let's just mark this down. When I'm in Australia, yet another place I won't go, the water. Yep. I've rented a hazmat suit for my visit there. To investigate, to keep at bay all of the vipers, all of the tarantulas. Yeah, there's vipers, dude. There's nasty snakes out there. Oh, in Australia? Horrible snakes, Tim. They can kill you just by looking at you. It's true. I've read books and stories. Then, of course, the dreaded drop bear, Tim.
Not with the drop bear. Yeah. They have parachutes.
My blood runs cold at the thought of the drop bear.
Yeah. I never get out of the house. So
yeah. You should try it. But not in Australia because everything there wants to kill you.
I never get invited anywhere. I just sit there. Yeah.
Iowa is the Australia of America.
Well, that explains it.
Well, and Florida. Everything in Florida wants to kill you.
I'm going to go on a field trip. I've just decided I'm getting out of the house. I'm going to see what this Florida man thing's all about.
Oh, that's right. You're heading to Florida.
Yeah. I'm going to say,
Tim, don't do it.
I'm going to report for the show, Dave. I'm going to go.
Tim, don't do it.
I got to do it, Dave.
Tim.
I'm going to file a full report.
Bad things happen in Florida. I want you to just hang out in Walmart with a video cam and just wait for something to unfold.
Shall I do that for our Patreon patrons?
Yes.
Shall I do special reports from Walmart in Florida?
Yes. All right. So True Crime Tuesday. Go subscribe right now. True Crime Tuesday. Go to darknessradio.com, click on the True Crime Tuesday banner, and subscribe for $5 a month to get 4 brand new episodes and access to all of our past episodes. But Tim will be stalking Walmarts with a live video camera feed. If he catches anything crazy in Florida, he'll be video feeding it to us, or Waffle Houses, Tim. Either one seem to be hotbeds of activity.
All right. I'll file a few reports from Florida, and I will make it available to our patron listeners only.
Nice.
It'll be a special benefit for our patron listeners.
So let's go back. This is Australia.
Okay. This is Australia. Yep. A fisherman found a fish that he described as a cross between a ling catfish and flathead as it approached a group standing on a sandbar at York Peninsula near the Spencer Gulf in South Australia. A photo of the odd animal with a transparent appearance was shared online Thursday by a friend of the group who saw it for themselves. A bit under 1 meter long, and it was a bit under him, cruising along knee-deep sandbars on York Peninsula, Spencer Gulf side, one witness told Dave Krantz. Suggestions of the potential species of the fish flooded in, with one immediately writing it off as some kind of fictional predator. Zombie killer catfish.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Seriously, I'd have to think some sort of estuarian catfish, but just under 1 meter is very big for one, someone wrote. Another suggested baby Loch Ness. And that's the end of that story. So
he's far from Loch Ness when he's in Australia. Do you think he's on holiday?
I think so.
My mom?
Hey, it could be a search. Maybe baby Loch Ness went to Australia to start handing out subpoenas for the Maury Show. I
think we should write a book. We'll call it Baby Nester. And it's how baby Loch Ness was seeking his mom in all these different places. Aww. This is the Are You My Mommy of the 2018s, Tim. I like it. I think it could be successful. Yeah. Could be. All right, so that was it. So they saw this creepy-looking fish swim over his foot. Yep. And they're all creeped. That's something. It is. All right, where are we off to next? We move on where a family tells how a ghost photobombed their holiday photo on a day where a body was discovered at the spot. And the Mirror is asking, do you see the ghost in the photo? 28-year-old Bernice Trulfa said she knew... Have you looked at this picture yet, Tim? Have you seen it without going any further in the story? I have, yes. Do you know... Oh, so you know what the ghost is? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I'll give my interpretation of it after you tell the story, and I would like to know if you concur. Okay. 28-year-old Bernice Trulfa said she knew nobody was behind them, and when she first saw the ghost, she was terrified, had goosebumps all over, and was crying. A mom is convinced that she captured a sinister ghost photobombing a group photo. And what's more, it is... A sinister ghost. Yeah. It is pointing to a man who died years after it was taken. Terrified Bernice Trulfa was enjoying a picnic with friends and family in Manchester when they decided to capture the memory by posing before Peaceful Lake in 2011. But it wasn't until years later, after the 28-year-old accountant made the spooky discovery and what appears to be a dismembered hand sitting on a wall. The same day the photo was taken, a woman's body was found at the same spot, which has a history of dark deaths. Ruling out a possible explanation for the hand, the mother of one said she knows absolutely that nobody was standing behind them.
When I first discovered the abnormal hand, I knew immediately that it was an unexplainable phenomenon, she said. A shuddery feeling went all over my body. I started to cry. I had a lump in my throat, goosebumps, and I was terrified. I know absolutely that nobody was behind us. Also, another photo that was only taken seconds afterwards shows no sign of the hand, Dave. It mysteriously disappeared. Renice from Barrie took to social media last week to seek a paranormal expert to explain the ghostly goings-on in a post that deepened the mystery of the story. The mom says she believes the hand appeared to be pointing towards the man in the middle of the group who tragically passed away years later. In a spooky twist, she found out the site, known as Doe Stones Reservoir, has a dark history of deaths, including on the very same day she posted the photograph. Paranormal experts have suggested that the hand may belong to a departed family member of Renice's former partner who was standing in front of it. Renice said, after I uploaded it online, I was messaged by a few mediums who said it belonged to a female with a sort of connection to my child's father. My father and I found there had been a long list of tragic incidents that have happened at the reservoir. The most recent of these blew my mind. On the same day I posted the photo, a woman's body who was found in the same part of the reservoir. The question I have to ask is it a message from the other side? My belief is that the soul in the photo is somehow linked to us. It's very exciting to have captured something like this. I've always been a bit of a believer, but I hadn't really experienced anything as solid as this.
All right. Now, first of all, I love that, it's a sinister specter, a sinister ghost. It's a hand.
Right.
And when you first look at it, you think, it's just the girlfriend has got her arms around her boyfriend and you're seeing her hand. But you can see she's actually grasping her hands. And you can see his arm in front of him.
Right.
But I think what it is it's off-putting. It's a visual illusion. Okay. If you notice the way he's standing, he's got his one shoulder, I think it's his right shoulder up front.
Okay.
And his other arm seems tucked behind her, even though she's wrapped around him.
Okay.
I think that's just his hand, because if you look at the hand that's appearing on the wall and then look at his hand that's visible,
yeah,
they both look very feminine.
Yeah, the fingers are similar.
Right? So I think that's what it is it's nothing more than a strange twist, and he just might have had his hand up on that wall and leaned in, exposing the hand. But that's my guess. But I just think it's funny how they're absolutely terrified by the sinister ghost. It's a hand, and it's not like flipping them off. It's not holding a knife.
Yeah.
It's not reaching for one of them to pull them over the railing. It's just like a hand on a rail.
It's gently caressing the rail.
Oh, boy, I could use a ghost like that.
Yeah, really, right?
Gently caress my rail.
Well, couldn't we all?
I'm just saying. Yeah. All right. So that's that. What do you see? I mean, am I wrong? Do you see
you're not wrong.
Possible perspective?
You're not wrong, because when you look at, he's holding like a bottle or something in his right hand, and when you look at how slender the fingers are and how they wrap around the bottle, and then you look at the other hand, which is tenderly caressing the wall, Dave, the fingers are similar in width and length. In fact, and in shape as well. So it's the same hand.
Bam.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Dave Schrader, defense attorney at law and detective.
Get 10% off the sandwich at the deli next door when you mention Dave Schrader.
That's right. All right, where are we off to next?
Okay. A Pentagon UFO project could have secret info that involves Britain's Roswell, Dave. It turns out that a Pentagon top-secret project investigating UFO reports could have groundbreaking information that solves Britain's Roswell. So says Nick Pope, who investigated the strange phenomenon from the Ministry of Defense. The massive Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The kids call it double A-tip, Dave. Yeah, they call it double A-tip. That's what they're calling it anyways. They out in the streets, the kids that are out in the streets.
You sound more like a old white man. That's what the kids are calling it,
That's what I heard from the news bureaus, Dave, out in the streets, Also explored reports of flying saucers. Since it was exposed last year, 3 videos have shown bizarre encounters with pilots and inexplicably fast aircraft. And Mr. Pope believes that double A-tip, who is Q-Tip's cousin, I don't know if you know that or not, could solve the famous Rendlesham Forest incident on Boxing Day, December 1980 in Suffolk. Two members of the U.S. Air Force, John Burroughs and Jim Peniston, from the nearby Bentwaters and Woodbridge bases went to investigate a suspected civilian plane crash. They stumbled upon an unknown craft displaying strange hieroglyphic symbols, which accelerated away at high speed after they touched it. The UFO was briefly tracked on radar and reportedly returned 2 days later and fired beams at Air Force crew in a sensitive area of the Woodbridge base, according to Mr. Pope. The former MOD expert said when the story about the Pentagon's secret UFO project first broke, there was an intriguing reference to AA Tip having a dossier detailing the best UFO cases from around the world. Apart from Roswell, the Rendlesham Forest incident is the best-known UFO case in the world, so it's logical it would be in their dossier, especially as the Rendlesham witnesses were U.S. military personnel. Mr. Pope said that all the Freedom of Information requests for details on AA Tip's work have been rejected on national security grounds. The special relationship between the U.S. and U.K. remains strong, but there's been very little intelligence sharing about UFOs, said Mr. Pope. Mr. Pope claimed that Ministry of Defense assessment talked about what kind of novel military applications could come from UFOs. Governments, even allies, are in competition with each other over this and don't want to give their name away, he said. He believes that the X-Files type investigations of the Pentagon project could have answers about mystery radiations associated with flying saucers. He said in a later Ministry of Defense intelligence assessment of the UFO phenomenon, more generally, my colleagues looked again at Rendlesham, and their final report contained the bombshell sentence, "The well-reported Rendlesham Forest/Bentwaters event is an example where it might be postulated that several observers were probably exposed to UAP or unidentified aerial phenomenon radiation for longer than normal UAP sighting periods. I'd be intrigued to know what information AATIP has about this and what it has concluded." In parallel with analyzing videos of military jets chasing UFOs like the three that have already been released, AATIP seemed to have looked at the physiological effects of UFOs on people who had extremely close encounters, as was the case at Rendlesham. The radiation could come from an exotic energy source and or propulsion system, some have suggested. An ex-military intelligence officer, Luis Elizondo, who ran AATIP, recently made an astonishing claim about the technology behind UFOs. He revealed that scientists concluded the craft can effectively create their own time-space bubble, which allows them to fly at incredible speeds. While the U.S. government said AATIP was closed in 2012, Elizondo claimed he worked on the highly sensitive project until October of last year. He said he resigned over excessive secrecy and internal opposition. With the project potentially still running, Mr. Pope hopes the answers to Rendlesham could finally emerge 40 years later. He said, "We're not too far from the 40th anniversary of what's been called Britain's Roswell, and I hope that the Rendlesham witnesses, Charlie Halt, John Burroughs, Jim Peniston, and others are finally going to find out what happened to them. It would be ironic if the answers to Britain's most famous UFO mystery was lying in a government file somewhere, not in the MOD, but in the Pentagon." Mr. Pope has written the book Encounter Rendlesham Forest based on interviews with the two witnesses, Burroughs and Peniston.
Cool. Boy, I'd love to get some resolution to that. I got the chance to go out there and visit that twice last year, and it was to me very cool, a really neat kind of bucket list place to go visit. And I like that they're so open about it. They just kind of invite people in. They tell you the whole story as you walk the trail, shows you all the different vantage points and what happened and at what time of day and night. It was great.
I bet I had an appointment to shred coleslaw that day. I apologize for not being there.
Yeah, there was that thing. Yeah. You were saving puppies from a burning factory.
Yeah, I do that twice a week.
Well, that's awfully big of you. I didn't know there's that many burning factories filled with puppies, but good thing you're on the watch, Tim.
Yeah,
All right, let's go. We're going to Peru?
We're going to Peru. I'm going to bring down the room, Dave. after that nice Mother's Day shout-out and making plans for Mother's Day, I'm going to talk about a child sacrifice discovery in Peru. Yeah, it
was bad timing on my part. I sense a Casey Kasem moment.
Yeah, this might be. Yeah.
For those that don't know what I'm talking about, Casey Kasem was doing one of his top 40 shows, and he was doing like a long distance dedication. And he comes off of one story and then goes right into the story about like a dead dog. And he's like, "Who the hell? Why don't you people think before you gave me? I got to do this, and then I got to read a stupid story about a dead dog." Good times. All right, let's go.
Ever.
Peru, a site of brutal slaying.
Child sacrifice, yes. Child sacrifice discovery in Peru, maybe the largest in history. Oh, I just didn't swing for the fences, Dave. I accomplished. Archaeologists have uncovered what may be the largest single mass child sacrifice event in human history. More than 140 children were sacrificed at about the same time in Peru's northern coastal region about 550 years ago.
Holy crap.
Yeah. The discovery was made near modern-day Trujillo, which lies near the center of the ancient, I believe this is Chimu civilization. More than 200 young llamas were sacrificed alongside the children. Wow. All of which were killed in a single event. They went nuts over there, didn't they?
Good grief. Who were they trying to appease, Tim?
I don't know. He was an angry god, Dave. The unprecedented discovery, supported by grants by the National Geographic Society, was exclusively unveiled on the National Geographic website. I, for one, never expected it, John Verano, one of the lead researchers, told the publication, and I don't think anyone else would have either. In 2011, the first discovery of human sacrifice victims at the site, known as Huancavelica Las Llamas, I think he was actually related to Fernando Lamas, if you look it up, uncovered the remains of 40 victims and 74 llamas during the excavation of a 3,500-year-old temple. The final tally announced this week of 140 children showed that the victims were aged between 5 and 14, though...
I have a question. How do we know that it wasn't just some kind of obscure baby llama war? Why do we automatically have to assume it was a sacrifice? Maybe just the babies hated the llamas, and the llamas were like, you know what? Fuck those babies, and we're going to war. And they put their heads down, and it was just a melee.
Because there's a lack of broken rattles everywhere.
I don't know. I'm just saying, it's just something to consider, Tim. Maybe it isn't what we think it is. Maybe it was just the all-out 550-year baby llama war.
It was the lack of battle injuries. It could be. Maybe it was the passive...
Well, they seem like they all had injuries. They're dead.
Well, yeah, but it was the passivity of the positioning of the bodies. Who knows?
Ooh, somebody's got his calendar of new words going pretty hot today. Passivity.
Let's just say I've watched a few episodes of Quincy, my friend.
And welcome to Obscure Throwback number 1.
Yeah.
All right.
Just saying.
So, I'm just saying, too. You just think, don't be so quick to dismiss. Tim. I think there's something to it.
Well, you've been off trekking around the world. I've been catching up on my Quincy. Just saying.
All right.
The final tally announced this week of 140 children show that the victims were aged between 5 and 14, though most were between 8 and 12 years old, according to National Geographic. The children are known to be victims of human sacrifice because of cut marks to the bones. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Or warrior llamas.
Yes. I love that show, by the way. Xeno Warrior Llama.
No, that was Warrior Princess.
Yeah, well,
totally different show.
You be the judge of that. She was a hefty gal. Mm-hmm. Okay, the children are known to be victims of human sacrifice because of cut marks to the bones, including to the sternum, the bone in the center of the chest. Many ribs were also damaged, which may indicate the heart was removed. See, now we're getting to the nitty-gritty, Dave. We just had to wait to get into the story.
That's because llamas love human hearts, Tim. Read about it. It's in all the books. National Geographic will be happy to tell you that.
In addition, many of the children were daubed with a bright red pigment made from cinnabar, not cinnabon, Dave, cinnabar, most likely a part of the sacrificial ritual. The llamas, which suffered the same fate, so it's not like, there was only one side doing this, were all younger than 18 months and buried facing east towards the Andes Mountains. Man. Gabriel Prieto, the other lead researcher, said when people hear about what happened and the scale of it, the first thing they always ask is why. Much like Dave. The dig may provide a hint, a layer of... I'll tell you, the dig may provide a hint. A layer of mud in which the victims were buried could have been caused by severe rain and flooding in the usually dry area, possibly caused by an extreme weather event such as El Nino. Such an event could have disrupted marine fisheries in the area, while coastal flooding could have overwhelmed the Chimu's extensive infrastructure of agricultural canals, that according to National Geographic as well. The children may have been sacrificed when sacrificing adults said, or rather did nothing to ward off the adverse climate events. This according to bioarchaeologist Hagen Klaus. I love his ice cream, by the way.
That's a Häagen-Dazs.
Oh,
Häagen-Dazs.
I love the rum raisin. I don't know if I'm addicted to it. I start eating it, I can't stop. People sacrifice that which is of most and greatest value to them, he said. They may have seen that adult sacrifice was ineffective. The rains kept coming. Maybe this was a need for a new type of sacrificial victim. Oh, so they did it because it kept raining. See what can happen when you get cabin fever?
Well, I still think there might have been a great llama baby war.
Yes, the great llama baby war of 14.
The painting wars tell it. You don't know, man.
1400 to 1450 AD.
That's right.
Carbon dating of textiles discovered at the site suggests the incident happened between or around 1400 to 1450 AD. The Chimu, who worshipped a moon deity, were conquered by the Inca civilization just a few decades later. About 50 years after that, the Spanish arrived in South America and conquered the Inca Empire in turn.
Interesting stuff. Hey, I do have to make a quick note, Tim. Tomorrow, we're going to have a special episode of Beyond the Darkness that is from our True Crime Tuesday programming from about a month ago, maybe about 5-6 weeks ago. We did a show regarding the Golden State Killer, the original Night Stalker, who was just apprehended. Mike Morford was our guest. We're going to air that episode tomorrow here on Beyond the Darkness. Our paid people on Patreon got to hear it about a month ago, but we have an update to that story that we're going to make available, and that'll be available through True Crime Tuesday. But you'll be able to hear the original episode in its entirety tomorrow on Beyond the Darkness. It's just a little gift from your buddies at Beyond the Darkness, because you know what, Tim? We love them.
We do love them, but we love the people on Patreon even more. That's why I'm going to venture into Waffle Houses and into Walmart in Florida and do reports for you people.
Excellent. How many more stories do we have?
Just a couple more here. It turns out that President Trump has delayed the full release of some JFK assassination files until 2021, bowing to national security concerns, Dave.
Every time.
Every time.
At this point, what is the national security concern?
That's what I'm wondering.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. President.
Unless it's just admitting the fact that our government did kill our president, which that would be very off-putting.
It would be. It would be. It'd be pretty disconcerting. Yeah. President Trump vowed last year to release all the long secret files related to the JFK assassination, but the administration announced on Thursday that some documents will remain redacted until October 2021 for national security reasons. In a White House memo, Trump said that the nation's intelligence community, I can't read tonight, community persuaded him to keep some parts of documents secret because their exposure could harm identifiable national security, law enforcement, and foreign affairs concerns. Trump gave CIA, FBI, and other agencies a deadline of April 26th to release documents related to the investigation into President John F. Kennedy's assassination by Lee Harvey Oswald on November 22nd, 1963 in Dallas. Trump, who once suggested that Senator Ted Cruz's father played a role in the assassination, had promised to release the entirety of the 5 million pages of records, most of which have been available since the late 1990s. Subject to the receipt of further information, I will be allowing as president the long-blocked and classified JFK files to be opened. That's what Trump tweeted on October 21st of last year. 6 days later, he promised, after strict consultation with General Kelly, the CIA, and other agencies, I will be releasing all JFK files other than the names and addresses of any mentioned person who is still living. The president did authorize the disclosure of 19,045 documents that are available on the National Archives website. Of that batch, more than 15,000 documents, which had been released previously with varying degrees of redactions, still have been blanked out sections, according to a National Security Council spokesman. In most of the cases, the redactions are now fewer. The spokesman also said no more documents are being withheld in full under the section that falls within the public disclosure rules under the Kennedy Act. Trump said the next deadline for the release of more documents would be October 26th of 2021. The need for continued protection can only grow weaker with the passage of time. This is what Trump wrote in the statement. Jefferson Morley, a former Washington Post staff writer who edits jfkfacts.org, a website devoted to the Kennedy records, said in an interview that he was disappointed by Trump's decision to delay the full release for another 3 years and possibly beyond. Trump said that all the JFK files will be released, but the truth is that thousands of JFK files are still secret. The clear intent of Congress was to have these released last October, and now we're talking about 2021, Morley said. The point is that the CIA wants to keep this secret forever. It's a very clear statement of intent. Morley also said that the Trump administration is not complying with the stipulations of the Kennedy Records Act, which requires that the administration provide declassified explanations for withheld documents. On October 26th of 1992, President George H.W. Bush signed the John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act. The law required all the assassination records should be publicly disclosed in full and available at the National Archives no later than the date that is 25 years after the date of the enactment of this act. But the law did allow for postponements if the government was worried that harm to the military and intelligence communities outweighs the public interest in disclosure. Morley, who had been fighting the CIA in federal court for the last 15 years to obtain other Kennedy records, said he was quickly going through the 19,000 files that were released on Thursday and came across redactions that made little sense to him. One document was an FBI report detailing an agent's interview of Oswald's brother Robert and his mother Marguerite in April of 1960. The July 1961 document refers to 4 confidential informants, codenamed T1, T2, T3, and T4, all Terminators, Dave. But their names are blacked out. We had AI even back then.
I'll be back for Bobby later.
This is a 57-year-old document, Morley said, and the names are still being withheld. Why? Another document is a House Select Committee on Assassinations interview of Boris and Ann Tarasoff, 2 former contract employees with the CIA at the agency's Mexico City station in the run-up to Kennedy's assassination. The transcripts exchanges are mostly all there, except that Morley noticed one paragraph whited out for reasons he could not ascertain. In a separate interview with Mr. Tarasoff on November 30th of 1976, I learned that the photographic expert on station in Mexico City in 1963 September to November was Bob Zambernardi's, and then the photograph is whited out until it continues again. Zambernardi was probably the man in charge of photographing the activities of both the Cuban and Soviet embassies in 1963. At the same time, Morley did give credit to the government for taking documents that were once heavily redacted and lifting their veils. There is some progress, he said. Some significant material has been released today, but other significant redactions remain. Rex Bradford, president of the Mary Farrell Foundation, which tracks the JFK files, said he wasn't sure yet what had been withheld and needed to spend time scrutinizing the latest release of documents to see whether they contain a large or small amount of redactions. He said he did a quick spot check and was surprised to see fewer whited out sections than in previous releases. I checked a few dozen files, and there were certainly many with redactions, but they tended to be names and short phrases, Bradford said. There you go.
That is so bizarre. And if you missed it on Friday, we did an interesting theater of the mind regarding the Kennedy assassination. That is a really weird, spooky version of the story. So if you didn't hear it, the episode on Friday was Who's Haunting the White House and the Ghosts of the White House with Jeff Belanger with a brand new theater of the mind. I remember the day. And that was a twisted one. That was different.
I actually have a theory as to why all of them haven't come out yet.
Why? What is that?
Even though President H.W. Bush is still alive and he's not in great shape, and he was the one who wrote the act that 25 years afterwards they should be released, these documents, I think his name is in those documents, and so are many other, let's just say, either former presidents or still people who are high up in government. And I don't think that you're going to see those documents come out even when President Trump has announced they're going to come out in 2026.
Interesting.
Yeah, cool.
Where are we going next? What's our next story?
We got one last story here, Dave. I'm going to use some rather harsh language, some terse language in this next story because it's part of the title of a book.
Okay.
It turns out that a Scottish woman is saying that she's an alien. She's an intergalactic goddess here to save the Earth. And by gosh, we need to give her some attention here, Dave.
About damn time.
Yeah. Leah Brooklyn is 23, and she's from Kilsyth, Lanarkshire. And she's adamant that she was sent here from another planet to help heal other species. Well, congratulations, Leah Brooklyn. We're glad to have you aboard.
No doubt.
Yeah. She's an eccentric author who believes she's an intergalactic goddess sent here to save our planet. Evidently, she has 2 eyebrows that are the size of caterpillars, too, Dave, and they're here to help as well.
Excellent.
Yes, they come right.
Never have too many friends when you're trying to help save the Earth.
Right. They jump right off of her eyebrow area, and they just run right over to you, and they hold you down while she heals you.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the picture.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I'm just discerning that. The 23-year-old beauty, which is in the eye of the beholder, is adamant that she was sent to Earth to help heal other species. She has now written a book. Brace yourselves, kids. Earmuffs. And the book is called How to Be a Fucking Unicorn to help other youngsters accept themselves after being taunted by bullies at school.
Okay.
It's the name of the book, Dave. How to Be a Fucking Unicorn.
Wow. Well, okay. Yeah. From an alien goddess who's come to save the Earth. Why not?
You got it. Leah of Kilsyth, Lanarkshire, says, it sounds so far-fetched, but I feel that I'm not from Earth and that I was sent here from another planet to heal others. I tell people I'm an alien, but obviously there's people that don't understand. I don't understand.
We do. Call us.
Yeah.
I want to talk to this woman.
Maybe we can get her on the show.
A goddess from another planet? Yeah. Sign me up, dude. Yeah, and her killer eyebrows. Caterpillar eyebrows.
Well, they're not killer. They're here to help, Dave. They just jump right off her face and they hold you down while she heals you.
Okay.
Yeah, they're it's a loving embrace.
Excellent.
They wrap their furry little arms around you. And
do they now?
Hold you right there.
Did I get excited?
Do they know? Oh, they're helpful caterpillars.
That's excellent.
She said, I tend to share it with other people who are on a spiritual journey, but I wouldn't necessarily share it with people who aren't because they might cut me off or think I'm crazy. No, Leah. You keep doing you, girl.
Mm-hmm. What?
That's what I told you. You keep doing you fucking unicorn. That's what you do.
Wow, you are violent today.
No. That's what she calls herself. Yeah,
I know, but you're cursing and stuff like you're a sailor.
Well, it's in the book, Dave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Leah, who describes herself as a species of alien as a light worker, likes to stand out with her brightly colored dreadlocks and space-age makeup. Nothing wrong with that. And even her mom, Moya, sometimes labels her as an extraterrestrial. See, it's good to have mom in her back, having her back, She said, I was walking through the airport the other day and my mom and people stare at me everywhere I go. Now, the second picture of her isn't too bad. I wouldn't kick her out of bed for bringing the caterpillars. I'm just saying. It still kind of bothers my mom, and she was shouting, yes, she's an alien. That's right. You're looking at an alien. At that point, I might give mom some medication.
Yeah, you know what you need to do? Send mom some flowers. From youflowers.com.
Yeah.
When she's backing you up like that, from youflowers.com/beyond, she deserves those $29 roses.
Oh, I thought I should send her some flowers and be like, hey.
Do it. Oh, I see how you are.
Hey, Mom.
You'd like her to be your mama. I gotcha.
Hey, Mom.
Mama.
What's your fucking unicorn up to next Friday?
Wow.
That's what I want to know.
Come on. This is a family show.
I'm sorry.
You're overdoing it.
It's in the book. It's in the book. Mm. It made them look at me even more. It was quite funny, she said, when her mom did the outburst about, you're looking at an alien type thing in the airport. My mom supports me living my purpose. She's amazing, and I'm really blessed, she went on to say. It was tough times in her life that led Leah to question who she was and to believe she was born on another planet. During a low point a few years ago, while working at a nightclub in a party resort, Magaluf in Majorca, when she was age 21, she hit a low, Dave. She hit a real low here. Leah recalled, I went into a really dark place, a really deep depression. I was taking it says I was taking panic attacks. That's a weird way to say it. And was so consumed by darkness that I was forced to figure out why I'm really here on this planet. I had a spiritual awakening in April of 2016 when I got in touch with my soul and who I really am. I'd say last year was when I was really born into who I am. Marketing student Leah said she realized she was an alien after reading up on the subject last year. She admits,
my mom always told me if I kept getting in touch with my soul, I was going to go blind or get hairy palms.
I got a little of both. She admits the concept might sound crazy to her, but insists that other alien beings exist right here on Earth alongside her. Oh, so there's more than one of her, Dave. Leah said, since I found myself, that's when the other light workers have been drawn to me. I'm a little drawn to you too, Leah. I'm not going to lie. I'd give you my number, but I don't do that on the air. Though,
it's
no. I'll send her.
I thought you forgot it.
No.
I get it. If you want a unicorn in your life, Tim, 612.
Dave. If I want an effing unicorn, I'll send her an email.
All right, fine.
Or I'll just put out a message to the rainbow to her pot of gold or however you do it.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah, I think so. Through Instagram, I've connected with souls all over the planet. We recognize each other. See, that's how we'll do it. We'll connect souls, Dave. Then we'll connect other things. She said we recognize each other as family and that we came here to help the planet. Oh, look at that. That's nice. If someone was to define my style, I'd say alien rock star. Yeah, baby. I like to dress like an otherworldly being and express myself and be bright. You be bright for daddy. Come on now. Leah says she was bullied as a youngster, which don't be a bully, be a star. That's what I've learned from WWE. But coming to terms with who she really is has helped. She said, I used to try to fit in. I was bullied all through school, and I would try to get approval from different people. I would feel so awful about myself, and I'd go home and cry. I'm willing to go beat the crap out of whoever bullied her.
Me too.
I would do that.
Dumbass bullies.
I know. I suppressed my dreams and who I really was for a long time, especially through school, because teenagers can be so harsh. If you were to tell me 3 years ago I'd now have dreadlocks, I like the dreadlocks, by the way. I do. I think I'm from another planet and be a vegan, I'd have laughed at you and said that's crazy. But each step of my journey has revealed more of me to myself. I believe I'm from a different star system that is of light and of love, and that the Earth has been taken over by beings who aren't of that. You could say that again. And I think I'm here to save it. Leah, who has launched the clothing line 11.11 Earth, gave up her receptionist job in June last year to start writing that book. I can't say the name anymore. Dave said I shouldn't be bad. Right. She was miserable working in an office and desperate to find her real calling. Mom Moya helped her come up with the book's title, of course. Mom swears like a sailor. Leah said, my mom is my guide and she's my soul sister. She actually channeled my book title. Oh, it was channeled, Dave. It didn't come from an editor. She also said that she quit her job in June to follow her dreams, and that's what she's been doing since then. She said, I want to help other people do the same thing by being true to themselves and doing what they want to do. The self-help book is a guide for wannabe unicorns, Dave. There are wannabe unicorns out there, people who want to live a happier life and be true to themselves and have a horn sticking out of their head and fart rainbows.
Tim.
What?
There's not only unicorns out there, but there be sea beasties. And we'll be talking about that on the show Wednesday as we go in search of sea creatures, giant monsters from the depths, the leviathans of the deep, Tim. Katie Elizabeth will be our guide. Doesn't sound like a real piratey name, Katie Elizabeth.
No,
she's gonna be our guest as we investigate claims of sea beasties, Tim. How about that?
I like it.
Yep, and then on Friday, Beyond the Darkness will be in need of defense against supernatural dark forces. Thankfully, we'll have the aid of Rosemary Ellen Guiley joining us. We're going to be talking with her, plus a brand new Freaky Friday Theater of the Mind episode. Make sure you check that out. That's coming up this week on the Best in Paranormal Talk Radio. Right now, it's time to take a break. When we come back, we've got Parashare here on Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
We're back. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. Make sure to sign up and check out True Crime Tuesday. It's one of our other shows that we present to you every week. Tomorrow we'll have a free version of True Crime Tuesday here on Beyond the Darkness. It's a replay from a show from about 4 or 5 weeks ago that we did on our True Crime Tuesday paid podcast. But for True Crime Tuesday, we have another brand new episode tomorrow with Harold Schechter is our guest, and we're going to talk about Hell's Princess, Tim, Belle Gunness. It is a twisted tale, so make sure you're here for that tomorrow. And you can always subscribe just by going to darknessradio.com. Click on the True Crime Tuesday banner and subscribe. $5 a month gets you 4 brand new episodes, plus access to all of our past archives as well, and exclusives. So make sure you check that out. Darknessradio.com. Click on the True Crime Tuesday banner. Let's get started, Tim. It's Parashare here on Beyond the Darkness. Hi, Tim and Dave.
Hi.
Tim first. Thought I'd throw you off, she says. Longtime listener, first-time writer, and highly satisfied patron of True Crime Tuesday. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. I'd like to tell you about an experience I had at one of Minnesota's largest hospitals in 2014. I was working security for an Allina hospital. One job responsibility was admitting and releasing newly deceased bodies from our hospital morgue. Most of them were still warm to the touch upon admittance. Hospital staff would frequently ask if I had experienced any strange or spooky occurrences during morgue detail. And although I kept my eyes and ears peeled for signs of activity, I never experienced anything out of the ordinary in the morgue. After 3 years and no sign of the paranormal, I'd given up hope of having an encounter at work. One night, while working the dog watch shift, my partners, pay attention, Dave. My partners and I were dispatched to our adult psychiatric unit. Most of these patients were involuntarily committed and frequently attempted suicide. Some of these suicide attempts were successful. When we arrived on scene, the nurse told us that on the surveillance monitor, she could see a patient had locked themselves in the group therapy room. The nurse led us to the observation deck, which hosted the surveillance cameras. Due to HIPAA, these cameras do not record or store footage. They simply live stream to a monitor behind the nurse's station. We looked at the screen and observed a skinny Caucasian male in his mid-20s sitting cross-legged in a chair near the back corner of the group therapy room. He was strumming on his leg with his fingertips and wearing hospital scrubs specifically reserved for mental health patients. Before entering the room, I asked the nurse if she could zoom in on the male's surroundings to see if he was near anything that could be used as a weapon. When the nurse moved the camera to zoom in on the patient, the lights in the group therapy room shut off, and the monitor screen went black. We put on our gloves and approached the room expecting to be met with resistance. However, when we opened the door and turned the lights back on, the small group therapy room was empty. We looked back at the nurse and expected her to burst out laughing. We thought we had fallen victim to a practical joke. However, the nurse was wide-eyed and shaking. Shortly after, she ended her shift early and went home sick. My partners and I will never forget what we saw that night, and now whenever someone questions me about the morgue, I tell them it's the adult psychiatric unit they should be more worried about. On a private note, thanks so much for all of your hard work. I very much enjoy listening to your radio show. The content is well put together, and the interviews are thorough. You always ask the questions I'm thinking. Additionally, my husband and I are going to be in Las Vegas in June. We booked to see Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum on Monday, June 4th at 8 p.m. After hearing you talk about it so much, I knew it had to be on our Vegas itinerary. I am so freaking excited. However, I've read they only let select visitors see the doll, which bums me out. I know I'll be disappointed if I don't get selected. Hopefully, I will be writing you in June with another spooky experience. Have a great day, and that comes from Katie. They try to make her sound all tough and scary at the end there.
She does. Yeah, I'm terrified.
Katie.
Yeah, I'm shaking right now.
Hello, Dave and Tim. Finally Order has been restored to the universe. My name was first. Recently, I've been having dreams where I get out of bed to do something, and it's dark in my house. The dark is a cold blue dark. It's not black dark, like when you shut off all the lights. As I attempt to switch the light on, I notice that the switch doesn't work. It's almost like I'm a ghost. I can see the switch, but I can't touch it. At the moment I realize that I can't touch it, I realize that I must be dreaming. Shortly thereafter, I wake up. Last night I had one of those dreams. I was asleep and had to use the bathroom. I got up and noticed the blue, dark color. I walked into my bathroom and tried to flip the light switch with no success. I panicked and tried to flip my bedroom light on. Again, no light. I floated into bed in a panic and tried to wake my husband. I couldn't call his name, and my hand just went through his body. I panicked because I thought I was dead. At that moment, I realized I must be dreaming. My husband woke me because I was calling his name and crying. Was this an episode of astral projection? Perhaps lucid dreaming? I've been dealing with some inexplicable health issues recently and wonder if that's a contributing factor. I'm normally a very active person, hiking, camping, horseback riding, and recently I do well to get out of bed. I'm in so much pain for no apparent reason. My mind is not as sharp as it is normally either. I can't seem to focus on anything, and I forget things I shouldn't, like names, words, places, etc. Just sharing this in the event there's a connection I'm missing. Thanks for your time and for reading my message. I love listening to your show, and that's from another Kate in North Carolina. Well, Kate, I would go see and look up, research, and find a Lyme literate doctor. That means a doctor that is very good at discerning Lyme disease, and then go get checked and run the battery of tests. You may not even realize it. If you are an avid outdoors person and you've been bitten by a Lyme-ridden rodent tick, you may be suffering from the ill effects of Lyme disease. So please go get yourself checked. There are some tests, and a good Lyme literate doctor will know what to do to search for that. Could just be your astral projecting. Could just be that you're doing small little out-of-body excursions. Start trying to take notice of more things when you're in that position. Take some slow, deep breaths when you're out of the body and realize that it's okay and that light is okay and that you can't touch anything. But just explore. Look around. Is there something else you're supposed to notice? Check it out. Keep checking it out. And God bless. Get some help. And please make sure that everything's okay. Report back to us. Let me know if you do go see that doctor. All right. Thanks a lot for writing in and sharing your encounter.
I think I figured it out, Dave.
What?
Dark blue light, right?
Right.
Can't reach the light switch. Can't touch it.
Right.
It's easy to solve. It's a syndrome that has been known to the paranormal since, I think, 1989, 1990.
What is that?
It's this.
Can't touch this.
It's MC Hammer syndrome, Dave.
Can't touch this.
Is that what he was writing about?
Yeah, that's
Out of his
exactly
body and
what
he couldn't touch us?
Yeah, he can't touch it. Yeah. It's MC Hammer syndrome, Dave. Yeah, it's MC Hammer syndrome.
God, the only cure is hammer pants, Tim.
It is, yeah.
And sometimes you got to pray. You got to pray just to make it today, Tim.
You got it. You've got the cure.
Oh, for son of a gun. Hey, Tim and Dave. I sense a bad trend going on here. Had to give Tim top billing since he sometimes gets forgotten.
Thank you.
Piffle, I say.
Thank you.
Before I get into the story, let me give you a little background. I grew up in a very religious, very Mormon town in Utah, Tim.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Hey, by the way, I'll be in Utah coming up in June. I'm going to be at a conference, a paranormal UFO conference, Tim. I'll be on hand with Joshua Gates.
Yeah,
How cool is that?
I'll be at home.
Yeah, I'll be in Utah.
Yeah.
So people should check it out, darknessevents.com. Darknessevents.com. Come on out and check out the Ancient Aliens with me and Joshua Gates. I'm going to get him drunk, strip him naked, and leave him in a cornfield somewhere in Utah, Tim. That's my goal for the weekend.
You're going to have a restraining order against you.
Big deal. Just add it to the pile. All right, before I get into the story, let me give you a little background. I grew up in a very religious, very Mormon town in Utah. Is that how you say that, Utah?
Yes, it's exactly how you say it. No.
Where anything involving ghosts or the devil, like ghost hunting or playing with Ouija boards, are a big no-no, Tim. A big no-no.
I play with them.
That's it? Okay. Yeah. Now, about 3 years ago, me and my 3 friends decided we were going to get a Ouija board and see what all the fuss was about. We went to Toys R Us to get one. See, that to me, Tim, is proof that Ouija boards aren't evil. They're available at Toys R Us.
Toys R Us closed, Dave, nationwide, Chapter 11.
So do you think it's because of the demonic forces that the Ouija board is unleashed on Toys R Us?
It had to be.
Yeah. We got to the store, found a worker, and told them that we wanted their most haunted Ouija board. One of the workers picked out a board for us and told us all that they find this board in different spots of the store every night before they close up. No wonder they went out of business. Needless to say, we bought that board and went on our way home. When we got to my friend's house, we headed to his spooky, unfinished basement, where we had a few creepy times with a ghost app. Anyway, we opened the board and lit some candles to get really freaked out.
Yeah,
we Googled some of the rules, and it said, to get the best result, put your DNA on the board. Either your blood or melt some hair on it with candle wax. Were they looking at like mypervyouijaboardsessions.com?
Yep.
So my friends put some hair on it, and we started playing. After about a minute, it was spelling out a few things. Then it started counting down from 10. So we closed the game, not wanting to let a ghost out or anything. Yes, because ghosts warn you. A ghost will soon descend in your room in 10, 9, 8. After a few minutes, we started back up, and then the board started spelling out D-I-E, which is German for the, Tim.
It is, yes. Yeah.
And fire and burn, Tim. Die, fire, and burn.
So it was signaling herpes.
Yeah, so we asked the board who it was referring, and after every word, it would move over, spelling or towards my friend's hair. After about the third time it did that, my friend got very scared and left. After he left, my friends and I continued to play a little longer. But nothing as creepy happened as what happened with my friend. We finished playing and hid the game under my friend's camper trailer so his parents wouldn't find it. The next morning we went out back, and the board was in the middle of the backyard. This board wouldn't go away, so my other friend took it home and eventually disposed of it in a lake. A few nights after the Ouija board incident, we were playing with a ghost app in my friend's basement. The ghost app started saying weird things and was saying my friend's name, so we closed the app and decided we wouldn't do ghost stuff for a while. About a month after all of these weird things happened, Tim. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
About a month after all these weird things happened, my friend, who the Ouija board and ghost app were talking about, passed away.
Oh, no.
It wasn't in a fire.
Okay.
But it was still eerie, especially because his death came out of nowhere. I don't know if it's a creepy coincidence or if the board had anything to do with it. Either way, I don't plan on ever touching a Ouija board ever again. Thank you for your great show. You guys are the best. From McCade.
Well, McCade, here I thought you were going to take us on kind of a humorous twist, like the board came out of the lake.
No.
You went all, my friend died on it.
Yeah, that's... Could have given us a little heads up on that one.
Yeah. Jeez.
Interesting, but thank you very much for sharing your story. We're sorry for your loss. That's horrible.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Well, your friend and Toys R Us. The Ouija board is an evil bitch, Tim.
It is.
Don't put your DNA on the boards. Just
don't.
Going forward, that sounds like a bad life plan.
Just keep it in the holster, buddy. Yeah.
This one's called A Ghost by Carolyn Woodward. Hi, Dave and Tim. Thank you, Carolyn. Thought I would tell my true story about the ghost that came to visit, but we knew who the ghost was. We purchased our home back in 1995. After a few years, I was on my computer in what we call our computer room. Coincidence, Tim?
I think so.
They have a computer in their computer room. Nice size room with no door, just an entryway. I caught a movement in the corner of my eye, so I looked and saw a man in what we called back in the day wearing a wife-beater T-shirt, baseball cap, and jeans. I thought right away it was the previous homeowner whom we purchased the house from. He was walking out of the laundry room into our master bedroom. My husband was laying on our bed watching TV. When my husband didn't say anything, I thought, wow, I'm seeing things. So I said nothing. This happened a couple more times over a few months. Then I couldn't keep it any longer and mentioned it to my husband, and he said, wow, I've seen him too. I told him it looks like Smitty, and my husband agreed. Well, after that, we found out from our neighbor, our next-door neighbor, that Smitty had passed away, Tim, about a year prior to that.
Jeez.
We were all surprised because Smitty and his wife were a few years younger than us. Smitty loved this home and didn't want to sell it, but his wife had gotten a job transfer back to their hometown and where all their family were, so they had to sell the house. Then our youngest daughter was on our computer in said computer room, Tim.
How ironic.
One night, and she saw the same thing. She finally told us about it, and we said, oh, yeah, we've seen Smitty, too. She said she would hear someone walking up and down the stairs, and Jake, our dog at the time, would turn his head, ears up, and look in the direction. But he never growled. He never barked. Then the visits just stopped. We haven't seen him since. I mentioned to our neighbor I was wondering how Smitty's wife was doing. She told us that she had a stroke and also passed away. I guess that's the reason we've had no more visits. Love your show. So glad Tim is doing better. His voice sounds strong on the radio, so that's a great sign. Sincerely, Carolyn. Thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn.
Smitty and his wife, not doing too good.
I wonder if Jake ever went to work for State Farm.
Jake from State Farm. All right, Tim, back to the stories.
All right.
Hi, Dave and Tim.
Hi.
This is my first time writing in for Parashare, and though I have over 15 years of paranormal experiences to share, I feel compelled to begin with the most personally tragic and traumatic one. We had a lot of deep ones this evening. All right. We lost our third child, Serena, in 2016 to a rare degenerative brain disorder that manifested itself very early on in her young life. I will try to spare the details, but she spent much of the remainder of her life in the hospital. Within the first 2 months of her stay, my wife and I were informed of the totality of her condition. Naturally, we were in denial. My wife stayed with her afterward while I went home to take care of the other 2 children. Along the way, I became angry, and I began yelling at God in my grief. I demanded that he deliver her to good health. I also made a plea to anyone. Allow anyone, angels, past gone family members, etc., that wanted to volunteer to go by Serena's bedside to watch over her, keep her company whenever we could not be there. Despite being a very spiritual person and a believer in the Almighty, I admittedly had my doubts. I later returned to the hospital that evening to bring my wife back home for the night. Once we were home, I went to bed, and I had the most profound spiritual experience I've ever had in my life to that point. I found myself in what I thought was a dream, but I was out of body. I could distinctly feel that. Everything around me was a subdued electric blue haze, and I began to travel somewhere. I couldn't figure out where, as there were no distinct landmarks or features of, anything. It was just blankness. Quickly, however, maybe immediately, I couldn't tell, I saw the outline of the hospital we had left Serena at, with a strange line rising up out of the top of the building. What this was, I had no idea. Maybe a lifeline? I don't know, but I felt very much that it was showing me where to go. Just as quickly, I was inside a room. Serena's room. I was floating above her bed, just past the foot of it, so to look down at roughly 45-degree angle. I could see the bed and the little girl lying in it, or rather, a version of her. Well, 2 versions. I could see Serena as we had left her, sedated and quiet. But this is where the strangeness went to a new level. There was another Serena superimposed over the prone form. This Serena was laughing, kicking and squealing, and a much brighter, more vibrant electric blue than anything else I had seen up to this point. I felt that I was seeing was the real Serena, what she truly looked like on the inside. She was also looking at 5 figures standing around her bed. Standing quietly around her bed, there were 2 on each side, and 1 at the foot. These beings had no distinguishing features that gave me any indication as to their gender, if they had any. They were also of varying height, but the one at the foot of Serena's bed was the tallest, by far, easily reaching the top of the hospital bed frame. They each had shoulders and what looked like heads, but they were made up of what I can only describe as a liquid-like energy. Very fluid, very alive. Have you ever seen cigarette smoke that was so silky, smooth, and thick, and it seemed to dance in the air? It was like that. The energy undulated over the length of these figures, but never bled away into the air. And they were the same bright blue, pure electric color. Again, much brighter, much more vibrant than the electric blue atmospheric haze I had seen encompassed in throughout this experience. I don't know how long I was there for. Could have been hours or maybe just minutes. Before I knew it, I was waking up for work the next morning, feeling much different than I had the night before. I felt oddly calm, considering the news I'd been told the day before. I remembered everything that I had experienced overnight. I made coffee and began to contemplate what had happened. I thought it was just a dream, but it couldn't have been. I had felt the wind on my face during my trip through whatever plane I was on at the time. I could hear the sounds of the hospital room when I was there, and I could sense as though someone had been talking to me through my very soul. It felt like I had been uplifted, like I had been shown something that I needed to see. Then I remembered my earlier request to God, and it all hit me like a ton of bricks. I had doubted him in my time of despair, and he was gracious enough to not take it personally and show me that he indeed had heard my plea. In this, I was elated. I knew that despite whatever may happen, our Serena would be taken care of. Unfortunately, her health continued to deteriorate, and on May 25th of 2016, she passed away in her mother's arms, just under 2 weeks before her first birthday. The hours that followed were the most traumatic in my life. I'll spare the details. We retreated to my wife's parents' house in a town just over an hour away from ours for support. But come the next morning, I did not want to wake up. I needed to begin making the arrangements for Serena's funeral, but I could not bring myself to wake up. I looked at the clock near the couch I had crashed on, but refused and shut my eyes. Soon I was in a deep, deep sleep again and dreaming. In this, I was walking barefoot through a field of grass with Serena held to my chest, wrapped in a white cloth. The grass was amazing. It was the thickest, healthiest grass I had ever set foot on, with just the right amount of dampness to the blades. It was perfection. It was serene. I brought Serena away from my chest. Her eyes were closed, like she was sleeping. I had been holding her body the very same way the night before, but this was very different. Her eyes opened abruptly, and she looked at me. Gone were the twitchy, semi-crossed looks that she could make in between her bouts of sleep late in her illness. Her eyes were clear, straight and beautiful, and full of life. And I felt something say, "Go." It was then when I snapped awake. I looked to the clock near me, and only 10 minutes had passed. I got up and looked around. My wife was in the kitchen with her dad having coffee and talking. I made my way to join them, any apprehension of proceeding with the duties needed now gone. It had been replaced with a sense of clarity and the odd notion that I needed to find lilacs. We sat there for what must have been an hour, trying to console each other. Then my father-in-law said something very strange. He said, "You know what we need for her? Some lilacs." I stopped cold and asked him why he said that. He didn't know, only that he had a compulsion to get Serena some lilacs for her funeral. I was stunned. I then told him that my wife and I had the very same thoughts I had been having, even having the scent of the flowers in my nostrils. I had a funeral home in mind, the same one that presided over my father-in-law's older brother and father's funerals. I had a nagging in my brain, however. It didn't feel right. I expressed this to others around me, and my wife's aunt suggested the one that was right up the road from where we were. The idea clicked in my head, but I couldn't figure out why I called and asked them for a meeting, and they agreed to meet that very hour. Getting ready took some time, and throughout I was bugged by the incessant pull to find lilacs. I was bothered by this because it was past the blooming time for lilacs at that time. All the bushes in the area were browning. I was beginning to become very upset that I would fail to provide any for my little girl, because I could feel that she was the one behind it. I did not have a life insurance policy for Serena, and I had no idea how we were going to pay for the funeral expenses. But we were shocked when we met with the funeral directors and learned that they would foot the bill for everything except the obituary. We couldn't believe it, nor could we understand how we came to find such generosity. Leaving through the back door into the parking lot, I looked to my right and saw a large lilac bush, still in bloom. I immediately brought this to my wife's attention, and my heart swelled. Our little girl had directed us to where we could get help. In the days between this one and the funeral, little things began to occur that cemented the belief that Serena was guiding us in our grief. There was a white dress that had a pink rose that my wife wanted for her, but could not find it in the size she needed. She'd given up on it and began going for another dress, only to have that white dress fall from a rack above her in Serena's size. A cousin of my wife in another state had some of her roses bloom, and they were pink. Not long after Serena's body reached the funeral home, I couldn't help but feel pulled in that direction, like someone was calling me over. I excused myself from the house, insisting I had to see her. The funeral director allowed me as much time with her as I needed. I was astonished when I saw her. When we left the hospital that fateful night, all the color had naturally drained from her chubby face. This night, she had a very healthy shade of pink that seemed embedded in her skin. As I looked closer, I spent over a half hour with her that night, saying things that a father needed to say. Afterwards, I talked to the director, remarking that the makeup job they had done was impeccable. Serena looked positively alive, albeit in a sleep state. The man looked at me confused, but gave me a polite smile and said, "We haven't done anything yet." When I asked what he meant by that, he insisted that they had simply cleaned her up and had not applied any makeup whatsoever. She had only arrived maybe an hour before I got there. I said goodbye and thanked the man for allowing me to see her. I then walked back to the house, unable to keep from smiling. I couldn't help but feel that my little girl wanted to look good for her daddy, for her talk with him. From there, very tough times were had. I'll refrain, as it's been tough enough to write about what I have thus far. But aside from the scent of flowers floating on the wind when there were none around, I will say that the day prior to the funeral, we were setting up the wake, and I saw Serena for the first time since the talk. She looked very much like what we all do inevitably at a funeral, pasty, hollow, very much the opposite of what I had seen the other night. Thank you, Dave and Tim, for giving me this opportunity to share this story. It's not the best writing from me, but even though there were tears, it was very cathartic. I have many stories, many more stories to share, but I knew this one had to be done first. And that comes from John. Well, John, thank you for sharing that very touching story and opening up to us regarding that. It means a lot that listeners like you listen and feel that that's something that you want to share with us and with the other listeners across the world. And your story has touched me very much, as I'm sure it has with Tim.
Yeah.
And we wish you and your family peace, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we'll end on that today.
Yeah.
Remember to love everybody that's in your life. Reach out to the people you've lost touch with, and hold the people that are in your life just a little longer tonight. Have a good day. We'll be back again with you with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.